Good morning. Welcome to Tools for Transformation. It is Wednesday, August 30th already. Lots of change happening around us. As I always say, ready or not. So we'll just hold on for a minute and let more people log on. While we're waiting, I would like to take a moment to just personally to say a small prayer for Texas and what those people are experiencing, and be grateful for what we have at this moment. So prayers for Texas. Our hearts go out to them. Just give it a few more seconds. So, Tools for Transformation, harnessing the power of change. So last week we talked about, in the last 2 weeks actually, we talked about what is change, what's holding you back from change, and some steps that you can take towards change. Last week we talked about releasing what's not working. And this week we're talking about releasing our resistance to change. And there's something funky going on with my screen. I'm seeing double of myself. So if I'm looking strange, just bear with me. We also talked about clearing the clutter, getting rid of what's not working so we could bring in more of what is, a big part of change. And so is, releasing our resistance to change. It's making some adjustments to our mindset and how we feel about change and what change means to us. So a lot of people try a lot of different things when they want some changes in their life. They do the programs, they, read the books, they do it all. And they have all the techniques, but what they're not doing is working on themselves and preparing themselves for change. And so quite often they end up doing the same thing and getting the same results. And we all know what that means. We all know what that means. And then they can't get out of their own way and wonder why they can't move forward. So we'll be talking about some of that today. So the truth of the matter is that resistance to change is really just not wanting to get out of your comfort zone. Kind of being stuck in your own space, and you're very comfortable in your own little oasis, your own little world, and have a fear of venturing out into the unknown. It's not unusual. None of us is comfortable with not knowing the unknown, but we'll be talking today about some steps that you can take to help you release some of that resistance. Because as we all know, change is happening all around us every minute of every day. So if we are resistant to it, we make our life much more difficult than it needs to be. So we need to learn to embrace change and realize that change is good. Change is very good because we don't want to get stagnant. We want to be in the flow and keep moving. So it's very important that we learn how to release that resistance. So the truth of the matter is that if you are resistant to change, that means you don't want to change your life. But if you do, if there are things that you do want to change in your life, then you really need to take the steps and do the work to do that. And it's really time to get comfortable with change. As I said, it's all around us. But we need to be willing to take a chance into the unknown and be open to the possibilities that are available to us. And truth be told, if you're not embracing change and you're being resistant to it, you end up being not being in control, but really end up being more of a victim because things are always happening to you. So taking control is one of the main issues that we will be talking about. So where do we start? Okay. So we start with, as always, reflection and self-evaluation. We need to always examine where we are currently. So the first question I'm posing to you is, what does change mean to you? And for many people, we, have different perspectives on what change means. Some people have the perspective that change means, getting out of the ordinary and moving forward and moving on to something newer and better. For others, change is, as I said before, just getting out of our comfort zone and not wanting to try anything different or not wanting to expose ourselves to something that we might not be familiar with. So we really need to understand that change isn't a bad thing, but we need to understand, what does change mean to us? And you really need to figure, where is that change coming from? Is it coming from fear? So if it is coming from fear, what is that fear? What is that fear, and how can we address it and face it? What is the fear? You need to notice what that is and how it impacts you in every area of your life. So it's really important that we take those steps to examine where that fear of change is really coming from, and examine those feelings. And there again, embrace those feelings. A big part of what people do not do when they're resisting change, as with so many other areas of our life, is that they do not address their feelings. And it's common for so many of us, is, we don't want to feel about a lot of things. We may have, negative associations with, with change, whether it be when we were younger or through other times in our life, that change took on a negative connotation. And so we really need to learn to release those feelings so that we can release the fear that is keeping us from moving forward. It's a domino effect, but we need to start with understanding what that change means to us. And also examine, how does those feelings and that fear, how is it serving you? What is it keeping you from? What are the things that you cannot do because you have that fear? What are the things you're not allowing yourself to do because of that fear? Change means responsibility. It means accepting where you are at this present moment. And there again, self-evaluation, examination, understanding where you are, knowing that you do have the ability to move from here to there. But we need to understand, again, what is holding us back from making that move. So it is a responsibility for us to understand why we are stuck. I always like to say stuck in the muck, because it's like having cement blocks on your feet when you can't move forward. And so it's really important for us to exist and to have a very fulfilling and prosperous life, to be able to make the changes that we need to make, and to step into the unknown, and to address the things that are holding us back from that. And as with so many fears, once you break through that fear and you walk through that fear, you will look back and wonder why you ever hesitated. because the fear of that unknown is worse than the actual unknown. The unknown has the potential to be positive, and it's all about bringing growth to our life. So if you're holding back, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid? Why are you afraid to grow? Why are you afraid to experience new opportunities and possibilities that are available to you in your own life? And there are two things that are required for initiating change, okay? Openness and willingness. You need to be open to a deeper understanding of what is possible. Understand what is possible for you. So you really need to be open to understanding that so you can see why it is so important for you to change. Because if you are not open to that, then you never can progress and you never can grow towards something bigger and better for your life. And the second is willingness. You need to be willing to let go of what is, whatever came before that might be holding you back, and you need to focus on the vision of what is possible. So those are two very key elements for resisting change: openness and willingness. Be open to what is possible and be willing to let go of whatever had been in the past. Very important, openness and willingness, and focus on the vision. Focus on what the new change will bring you. What will that look like? What would you like it to look like? When you can envision what it is you want to accomplish or achieve or move into in any area of your life, when you can envision it, the change becomes easier to make because it automatically dispels the resistance, because you can focus on the positives and you can focus on moving forward. Openness and willingness. So, some steps that you can take. Forgive me, I am following my notes today. Some steps that you can take towards moving through some of that resistance, especially when you have a vision and you know where it is you want to go. You're just having the difficulty breaking through the resistance. First thing to do is to have a plan. If you have the vision, then you have a concept of what it is you want to achieve and what changes you want to make. Put that plan in place. If you live in Florida, but you want to move to the mountains, but you're afraid of making the change, put a plan in place. What are the steps you need to take to get there? And little by little, you can start working towards that plan, working through that plan. As I've said before, I'm not a fan of drastic change when we have control of it, which we don't always. But I'm not a fan of drastic change because, especially if you are resistant to change and you try and do everything all at once, it creates too much upheaval in your life. And so that's like going from A to Z in 30 seconds. There's too much going on, it's too overwhelming, and for most of us, we need more easier adjustments in our life. So sometimes the plan needs to be much more subtle. And some of us can be more aggressive in our change because we already know how to deal with it and we know what we're going towards. But if you're not comfortable with that, subtle changes will get you there at your time and your pace. So we don't want drastic upheaval. And just to make a quick reference, there are changes that will come at us totally unexpected, But the more comfortable we are with change and the less resistant we are to change, the easier it is for us to deal with those unexpected changes. So it is very important that this really works for every area of our life. When life comes at us, we need to be able to deal with whatever is coming at us. And so if we're not ready for change or comfortable with change, it will be that much more difficult. So whenever we can, and we see the vision and have the vision for what we want to do, we need to put a plan in place. So it's always important to start with that plan, create what it is, take the baby steps towards what you want to accomplish and the change you want to make. Also, in putting that plan in place, you want to have as much control as possible through that change. So you want to, by having that plan, you can have control. You can set your timelines. You can set how much or when you want to accomplish that change, make that move. If you want to change your job, okay, and you have the plan in place for what that is going to look like and what it is you want it to look like when you do get to the other side, that fear of, handing in your retirement or your resignation letter is that much less because you know what you are working towards. And so when you do that, you are taking control of your circumstances as opposed to waiting for the circumstances to take control of you. And so when you do have that control, it releases your resistance because you have the power. It's you doing it. Releasing resistance gives us power to do things at our time, at our pace, and in our control. So very important that you have visions of what that control can be as you put that plan in place. I always like to refer to this metaphor when we're speaking about change, because some of us of a certain age, most of us, remember watching Jungle Jim and watching him swing from vines to vines in the jungle. And so I always say, use that metaphor when you're trying to make change and you want to release the resistant, okay? Imagine yourself in a jungle, swinging from vine to vine. It's always easier to let go of this vine when the next vine is in front of us and we can see it. It's a great metaphor for making change, releasing one to bring in the other. So hold on to that metaphor because it's easier to let go of that one vine when the other one is in sight. So the 3 steps to releasing resistance to change is have a plan, have as much control in the next phase as possible, and imagine yourself swinging from vine to vine. And to do all those things and release that resistance, you need to be open and willing. So for next week, which is part 4 of our 4-part series on tools for transformation, harnessing the power of change, we will be talking about taking action. We have everything in place to make the change. Now it's about taking action. So next week we'll be talking about taking action. Next Wednesday, September 6th, 11 o'clock, same channel, right here on Christine Cottagio on Facebook Live. In the meantime, if you'd like to get daily tools for transformation in your inbox, little tips to help you make those subtle little steps that I talked about, then Feel free to message me either on Facebook or on my website, which is ChristineCottagio.com, and you can receive 21 days to help you break the habit of resistance to change and to help you move forward in your life. And as always, I am available for a 30-minute complimentary consultation. So please, if you're having some resistance with change and you want to get some clarity and direction on the best moves for you, by all means, reach out to me and let's have a chat. You can schedule that on ChristineCottagio.com as well. And all of these concepts for tools for transformation entail some sort of vision for your future. And so next week, I'll be sharing with you Vision 2018, a 3-month program that will bring us out of 2017 very strong and lead us into our vision for the new year. So stay tuned for those details next week. I look forward to seeing you on the call, and have a great Wednesday. Thanks so much for being here.